to my channel. I am Tired Mama, or Sam, whatever you want to call me. I get asked quite often, well, what do you do for fun? Like, what do you do to relax? And so I wanted to kind of show this to you today. Some people have seen me do this before. It is a project called paint pouring. I have always been a creative person, whether it was sewing or painting or crocheting. I enjoy making things. And so for me, this is a way that I can make art. I'm not a good drawer though. Like, I can't like do Bob Ross type things. But this is kind of a unique form of art. And I find it very relaxing when I do it. So I'm going to show you what all I need. Today we're going to be using a canvas. This is a 12 by 12. And then in the bottom I have these push pins just so that it's held off the trash bag that I have on my desk. And when I move the camera, you'll see what I'm talking about. You need acrylic paints, and I'm going to be using green, purple, yellow, pink, and black. You need latex gloves, or whatever kind of gloves you want. You don't want to get all the paint on your hands. It does come off, but it can be a pain in the butt to clean. You need, what are these called? Craft sticks, popsicle sticks. You need small Dixie cups. This is probably the one product that you can't just find anywhere, and it's called Floetrol. You have to order it off of Amazon. You can sometimes find it at Home Depot. You need fire. You can use a long lighter. I like the torch, it's easier. And this is just water with a little bit of dish liquid in it. Now, let me reset my camera and I'll show you what we're working with here. Okay, so this is my workstation. And I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit as we kind of go through this about why this painting style works really well. And it's because each paint, we're going to put a little bit into the cup. Each paint color will have a slightly different density because you're mixing the acrylic paint with the Floetrol and a little bit of water to thin it out. So what happens, we're going to do something called a cup pour, where we're going to pour the paint out of the cup onto the canvas. This is a metallic. We're going to use a touch of pink. And I'm going to do like a 3-to-1 or a 2-to-1 ratio, like 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint on some of these, because the different layers, and you'll see this as I pour it out, you're going to see how it varies so much, and how what ends up happening is you're going to see all of the layers in the paint. Ooh, that's kind of gross. Ugh, that one's got snot booger in it. Alright. So I have in my cups here, I have all the paint colors. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the Floetrol. And you just kind of have to play around with it. Pour painting isn't something that you really are just going to pick up right away. Like, it takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of working with the different mediums and the different kinds of paint. Because you can get paint that comes in a tube, or like the tubes I had up here. Or you can get paint that comes in a bottle, like the typical acrylic paints that you're used to. So I'm just going to take these with the tongue depressors or popsicle sticks, and I'm just mixing this up really, really well. And I like my paints to be a little bit on the thinner side. You can kind of see here. Let's see if I can zoom you in a little bit. Okay. So it just thins that beautiful color out. My kind of theme for today is that I want to do almost like a galaxy. The base color is going to be black. And then it's going to have all of these beautiful colors around it. The metallic paints, it takes a little bit longer to mix them all together for some reason. It's not always my favorite paints to work with, and tube paints tend to be thicker. So if you choose to do this, just realize you have to thin out tube paints more. And if you're a mom like me, then you probably somewhere around you have some leftover craft paint from the 5 million different school projects that you've had to do with your kids. Because that's how I got started. I found that I had just extra craft paint everywhere. And so I was like, what can I do with this? And then I found Gina DeLuca on YouTube and started following her page. And she has some beautiful, beautiful paintings. And I was like, oh, I can do that. And so I started kind of playing around with it. And then within a few days, I had done my first painting. And then it's like an addiction. I mean, really and truly it is. It's an addiction. Let me work with this yellow for just... Sometimes colors will have a... Let's see. So you guys can see all these beautiful colors. We'll have like chunks in it. That's one of the reasons it's important to have good paint versus like at Walmart they have the apple crate paints and they just don't work well. They tend to have a lot of chunks in them. They tend to not mix well. So I don't use the apple barrel paints, or apple crate I think is what it's called. I just don't like how those mix up. So you can kind of see here the color scheme that I'm going for. I am doing 2 cups of black because that's going to be my base color, which means I'll paint the whole canvas in black and then the other paints will go on top of it. And that's an important thing to know, that you have to kind of do it in that order. So whatever you're going to use as your base color does tend to take a little bit more paint, and you do have to thin it out just a little bit more. We're also going to be adding silicone to our paints that are going on the top, because that will create bubbles, and the bubbles are what give you the layers. So I've done here 2 cups of black, yellow, pink, green, and a metallic purple. The silicone that I use is this. It is silicone hair oil by OGX. And then we will mix that in right at the very end, right when we're getting ready to start pouring our paint into the cup. Now, let me bring you back a little bit. I am still struggling from a cold. I'm going to go ahead and put on my gloves. And then we are going to start with the base layer of paint, because that is probably one of the most important layers. So we have our canvas here. You'll see I have a white trash bag below this. You don't want to get the paint anywhere. We're going to mix this up one more time. Okay. And for your base color, your goal is to coat as much of your canvas as you can. Now, I use an offset spatula that will help me spread the paint around. You want it to cover well. You don't necessarily need it to be perfect, because you are going to put paint over this. But what happens is you have to cover the bottom of your canvas in order for it to allow the paint that you're going to pour on top to move freely across the surface. Now you can paint pour on a lot of different things. A trend that I've been seeing lately is to do like serving trays or the bottom of a dish that you're going to then like clear coat. That always looks really, really pretty. You want to try and get this layer just as smooth as you can. And that just means applying similar pressure across the whole canvas. You want it to be smooth. The edges you're going to get with your other paint, you don't have to worry about that as much. I try and make sure the corners are good. And then I have a little trick that I learned from someone. I don't even remember who it was. To drop it. Just a fuzz. Just drop it a little bit. So I'm going to start mixing my paint. Now, I'm going to take this bottle and I'm going to just put a few drops of oil into each of my colors. Just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot. And it can be hard because they have really long tubes on these bottles. But this is the best way to do it. Because if you try and like pour it in, you're going to get too much. And then your paint won't mix well. And that's really not what you want. You really want it to be mixed up very, very well. Alright, so I'm going to mix these together a little bit. You don't want to overdo it, but you don't want the silicone just sitting on the top. And for this project, you can see here I'm going to have little bubbles coming up. For this project, I'm going to be mixing paint into 2 separate cups. I'm doing that because I think this canvas is large enough that it's going to need 2 cups to cover it. So I'm going to mix up my paints in these 2 cups. And I'm going to just do small layers of each color. We're going to start with green. And then I'm going to do just a little bit of black. Okay. And then I'm going to do pink. Pink. Now, you'll see that I'm holding the spatula, so I'm pouring it like over top of the spatula. And I'm doing that because that allows for the paint to sit on the top versus fall to the bottom. Your thinner paints will fall to the bottom. I don't understand the science behind it. I'm sure my daughter does. But you don't really want all of your paint just to fall to the bottom. That's why each layer needs to be a different consistency. And I can see the colors in the cup are already mixing together very, very pretty. Remember that certain colors mix together to cause other colors. If you do a ton of yellow and blue, what color is your painting going to be? It's going to be green. If you do a lot of too many colors and you mix them together too much, you're going to end up with brown paintings. Your goal in this is not to have the paint mix all the colors together, but to actually have them layer in the cup. I think that one got a little bit chunky on me. We're going to top it off with some purple. I love this purple because it has like a very, very fine holographic metallic look to it. And the last color, I'm going to put a little bit more yellow on there. I really don't want this to be all black. I'm hoping for some really cool galaxy colors. And I have some white sitting over here that I can take and sprinkle on top for a star effect. So, here we go. This is the exciting part. This is where you're actually creating your your design and you're playing around with your colors here. So we're going to take the first cup and I'm going to pour it on this side. That looks cool already. So I'm going to take this one and pour it over here. And I can see the greens and the yellows and the purples and the pinks really coming out here. Now, one trick that I've learned is to always take a little bit and cover your corners, because the corners just seem harder to get covered. Okay. Now, so we have this done. The next part is we're going to take our torch, and you can see, guys, I've been using this one for a while. And we're just going to really lightly go over it. Look at that, guys. Look at that. I'm going to bring you in a little bit so you can see some more of this. You see all the colors that pop up? This is why I love this type of art. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this back so you can see it a little bit more, and we're actually going to pick where on here we want to see more of. I think I really like this green and purple here. So we're going to take and we're going to tip it a little bit, and then we're going to bring it back to the center and let it settle for a second. So this is what we have right now. I'm going to take my torch and go over it one last time, because I do see some bubbles popping up. And you can see what happens when you touch it lightly with the torch. You see all the colors. So now I've kind of got my galaxy effect, and I'll take a couple close-up pictures to include at the end. But what I want to do is I want to do a little bit of a white cast. You know, galaxies always have stars, right? So I'm going to thin out just a little bit of white paint. And I'm just going to do some sprinkles of white across the top of the colors. Now, as a pour painting dries, it will always change. It will always change. There will be different aspects that show. There will be different things that come through. And I'm just sprinkling in some stars. What would probably work better than this is if I had some, like an old brush. But this is good. Now, let's torch it one more time. And I'm going to put some pictures of what this looks like from here. And then maybe in a few days, I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's finally dry. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. I'm super excited with how this looks. And I'm really thinking that once it dries, we're going to see more pops of color than we do now. And I hope that you guys will be excited to see that. If you have enjoyed this, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And maybe I'll do some more of this type of relaxing arts and crafts type thing. If you enjoy it, like I said, let me know. Until next time, guys, know 3 things. Number 1, you are worth the time that it takes to lose weight or better your life. Number 2, your life is worth the effort that it takes to lose weight or better your life. And number 3, you are loved. Until next time, guys. Bye.